Hello, welcome back to JM Football, and welcome back to Mobile, Alabama, our favorite place on earth. Left to your right on your screen, it is the Football Grump. It is Bobby Skinner in the middle, and it is me, Justin Penik, and this is the Day 1 Senior Bowl recap brought to you by Corona for the fans that never lose. We're not losing here in Mobile, Alabama. Fellas, we're going to recap Day 1, the American team, national team, a lot of O-line, D-line. That's where our attention mainly lied the first day. Seems like hopefully the practices are going to be getting up to speed. A little bit of a slower pace today. Our producer Jeff did here during the second practice that some of the coaches wanted the guys to kind of pick up the intensity, but the intensity was there with the O-line and D-line, and we kind of knew that coming in with the talent that was coming in.
Yeah, the D-line on the American team is what I'm here to look at, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's obviously guys at other spots, but when I come away from the Senior Bowl, I want to have some more thoughts on the D-line in the American team, and I came away with that, right? When we'll talk about Shamar Stewart, Deion Walker. I think we should have a conversation about, because there's going to be guys that are really high on him, and maybe some that are lower. Biggest stock up is Robert Smith, though, because I miss Robert Smith being crammed in here with us, but hope he's doing well. But we will start with the national team, as we usually do. Justin, and you recorded all the one-on-ones, so we watched them live, then go back and watch them. And you always look at the small school offensive linemen just to see how they handle being here. And I didn't think he was the best offensive lineman. I think Josh Connolly out of Oregon was the best offensive lineman for the national team. Greg Zabel out of North Dakota State. Greg Zabel out of North Dakota State. You know, he's an offensive tackle. He worked at only guard and center here. At center, you could tell he wasn't used to snapping the ball and getting his hands up, but he still didn't do a terrible job even though he's lost. At guard, I thought he had the best reps of the day on the interior, on a interior group down here that's maybe doesn't have the names that it has had in past years.
There's a line that you say in some of your film breakdowns, Bobby, kill the will, right? I mean, and I think that's exactly what Zabel did today, is he would start reps, and, hey, I feel like these O-line, D-line 1v1s that are inevitably designed for the defensive lineman to win, right? So it's like, oh, he's being driven back 5 yards. But what he's able to do is he's able to cover really well. Through his hand placement, you saw the strength being able to hold up. But, I mean, he would eventually just get in a spot where it's like, if you take a screenshot of it, it's like that's what good offensive line play is. It's like you kill the will for the defensive lineman to do anything and operate anything. And Zabel, I thought, out of at least the guys that maybe you weren't expecting, which I guess some people were really high on Greg coming in here, but out of some of the guys that maybe you weren't expecting, he is skyrocketing after day 1.
And listen, for a lot of these SEC guys that we're going to talk about, their film is what's going to really matter to us. You know, the Senior Bowl may not move us a ton, right? Like, I think I got exactly what I expected out of some of these guys, but it was good to see some confirmation on the SEC. The small school guys, this here moves it for you, right?
Yeah.
It moves the needle on what you think about him. And Greg Zabel, like you mentioned, one-on-ones for offensive, especially interior offensive linemen, will never look like great game film.
Yeah.
But it's just, can you stay in front of him with that full man-to-man relationship? And can you get to a point where you're straining and stopping him from pushing you at around 4 yards of depth? And Zabel did that every single time from the guard spot, and it was really nice to see, Grump.
Yeah, I mean, it's about recoverability. I think it's one of the things that's the most lacking in college students coming up to the NFL level, and it's certainly something that smaller school guys, you don't expect to see that kind of stuff already developed, but the recoverability is there. He understands how to reset his hands and get his weight underneath him and, end the rep, essentially, even if he is getting pushed back. So I thought Greg Zabel had a great day, and I think if you look back at the NDSU film, which I had watched the Colorado game yesterday before we had came here, and I was impressed with him already coming into this. So I wasn't shocked to see him have a good day, but it was good to see that he had a good day here.
Yeah,
and he's only working on the interior as well,
right,
where a lot of guys, worked at tackle. And there's a very clear you're going to play interior.
Yeah, I wonder if he's going to exclusively go to guard or maybe a little bit less center snaps, because there were some centers, but it's still impressive where I don't think he lost a single play, but we're nitpicking him a little bit at center. He just looked way more comfortable at guard. So if I were to guess a trajectory for him, I would say it'd be at guard.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think the best, watching the national team, the best player from the offensive and defensive line and edge group, I still walk away Josh Connolly. I probably went in thinking that as well. But you see, the quick feet, a strong punch. Doesn't have the strongest anchor in the world. You'd like to see him hold up a little bit better against that. Sometimes where guys tried to work inside, but I thought he did a good job in the run game, especially versus Mike Green out of Marshall, who we'll talk about. So I thought he was the best player, and that was the first player you recommended me to watch before we came down here, Grump.
Yeah, the footwork jumps right off the tape. I mean, he mirrors extremely well. He's got the quick feet to get out of his stance and get to his spot in pass protection. I thought he looked rock solid all day. There might be like a rep here or there where he looked less so, but I think he locked it down the entire day.
There's two guys on the offensive line, one from the American team and one from the national team, where they are when I leave here, I want to go see your film, right? Guys I had no preconceived, notion or film on. And mine is Anthony Belton from NC State, the offensive tackle. He even got a couple guard snaps. 6'5", 345 pounds. I wouldn't guess he was 345 by the way he looked. He looked a little slimmer than that. He moved better than that. He's a bit, obviously a big guy. He destroyed Mike Green, right, who was the guy on the defensive line from the national team and projected to go a first-rounder. He destroyed him. Had a lot of other good snaps where he just ended – it quickly out there in the tackle spot. So I guess known as a little bit of a mauler. He is on the national side. All right, let's go back and see what your film looks like because you've intrigued me here.
Yeah, he's nasty. We were talking to some other people here. It's not always going to look super pretty with Anthony Belton because he is a little bit on the clunkier side. He doesn't have the same kind of footwork that you can see from Josh Connerly, although it's not bad, just like you were saying. But he always gets the job done. So definitely somebody that I had some conversations about Anthony Belton before coming down here, and I thought he had a pretty good morning as well.
Justin, who did you think was the winner out of the quarterback group? Maybe even for the day, but I think your answer is probably from the national team.
Yeah, I mean, we have you're going to have to help me out with the pronunciation of these, especially the two quarterbacks. So we have Tyler Show from Louisville.
Yeah.
There are our guy from Canada.
Taylor Elgersma.
And then you have Dylan Gabriel. So that's the national team. So the quarterbacks on the American side in the afternoon are Jackson Dart, Jalen Miller, Riley Leonard, and then Seth Hennigan from Memphis. So clearly in the afternoon session, the American session, the quarterbacks are a little bit more talented there. But Dylan Gabriel did have the best day. Now, I don't want to say this is a referendum that I think Dylan Gabriel's best is like QB3 in this class or even, the best quarterback here necessarily. But Dylan Gabriel got the most opportunities to showcase today that he was the best quarterback here, and he took advantage of those opportunities. There was a couple receivers that dropped the ball down the field. You had a tight end that dropped the ball down the field. You had Xavier Restrepo drop the ball on the sideline for him. So even though if you're charting Dylan Gabriel's attempts and completions, the completion percentage may not be that great. Yards per attempt may not be that great, but he had two big drops down the field. Dylan Gabriel really did look decent today and really took advantage of the moment.
Yeah, I thought he was the only QB that was really testing things out and trying to push the ball down the field and not just trying, like you mentioned, just get the ball out, felt confident in what he's doing. And he should with the experience that he's had, and, being a Heisman finalist, obviously performed the best in college out of these guys. I thought he looked the best. I know I do want to get back to some national team, but since we're on quarterback and the Canadian quarterback, Taylor Elgersma, 6'4", and one-on-ones, he looks the best, right? Yeah. His first, just on one-on-ones, he throws the ball really well. He's big, he's strong. And the first one, just a 30-yard ball, back shoulder on a rope, right? When it first comes out of his arm, you're thinking is this like an underthrown deep ball? No, this is a beautiful back shoulder. You saw that. When it got into 11-on-11, it looked like a quarterback who played 12-on-12 in Canada and where had three receivers having a running start. He didn't understand it. So I kind of got a little overexcited just with seeing some of his highlights and the talent that he has, and it was kind of like a comeback down to earth. But again, you do see the talent where, and this is his first time really playing 11-on-11 since last week at some other smaller bowl game in Florida. Listen, I want to see the talent. I want to see him day 3 run a regular basic concept thing and get the ball out on time and see confidence-wise. But since we're on the quarterbacks, Justin, we can talk about the American team. But before we talk about them, why don't we talk about something?
I will talk to you about something. And Corona. They're sending us here to Mobile, Alabama first year where our Senior Bowl trip is sponsored, which is kind of awesome, so thank you to Corona. And today's Senior Bowl recap is brought to you by Corona, and you know what I always try to be? A fan that never loses. Here's what I mean. We all know my football team doesn't win every single week, but even when they lose, I'm still loving the game, and I'm winning here in Mobile because there's always something to cheer for and the best beer to pair with awesome moments. How about Corona? We have it back at the Airbnb. Corona is all about finding the maximum amount of joy within every moment of the game, win or lose, at home or on the road. So cheers to everything everyone who loves the game beyond the scoreboard. Corona for the fans who never lose. Get yours at ordercorona.com. You will be glad you did. Thank you once again for Corona for sending us down here.
I'll show you, Tornado. You'll be glad you did. On the American side with the quarterbacks, with Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart being the ones to highlight that, I just wanted to see a little bit of wow, and we didn't see any of that.
Yeah, I think that was more of coaching, right?
Sure, but at least test something out, right? Hold on to the ball and try and get the ball down the field.
They ran the ball a lot during that second practice.
Sure, but when they did throw, it was just the ball was either a check down and not like a great job going through your progressions, just not there, check down. Just like, quick, let me get the ball out. Jalen Milroe took, would be sacks. Obviously, he's not being tackled here. Missed some throws. Like, he just didn't try and push the ball down the field at all. And the same with Jackson Dart, right? Jackson Dart I thought looked better. He had some better clean reads on some of his shorter throws, but he missed, a guy in the flat on a bootleg. Just no willingness to push the ball down the field. Even I just wanted to see quarterbacks who came here looking to push the ball. Now, again, that could obviously be play calling down here. Sometimes I get very frustrated with the way some of these are coached, like they're not being coached like a showcase, and like this shouldn't be day one of install. This should be coached as a way to be a showcase. So there is some of that, but we've also been here on day one for 5 years in a row, and I've seen quarterbacks, some I don't even like, make big boy throws, right? Kenny Pickett, who I thought had a horrible Senior Bowl, I saw him make big boy throws in the rain.
They weren't even called. Yeah, normally there's a lot of oohs and ahs going on in practice, and everyone's looking in different directions. You kind of have to find where the ooh and ah is coming from. There was not a lot of that at all today, morning or afternoon.
Yeah, I definitely going into tomorrow. I want to see more out of what Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart are. Absolutely. Going to clean up the national team, if anything else. Elijah Arroyo. We spent a little more time in the trenches today, but. Elijah Arroyo, the tight end of Miami. You mentioned that deep drop he had from Dylan Gabriel. He looked really good, though, outside of that. You mentioned a stick and nod where he cleaned up somebody.
1v1, stick and nod. And again, especially if you're a tight end versus a linebacker, these tight ends are going to win 9 times out of 10, especially when they don't really know what's coming. But this stick and nod that Arroyo ran just left him in the dust. You were talking 10, 15 yards of separation, kind of just broke his ankle. So he did look really good today. He moves really well. This is a big, all these tight ends, I would say maybe besides the one from Bowling Green, and I don't even know if he's even here. He's not.
Yeah, he's here.
Oh, he is here.
He's,
okay.
he's on the smaller side.
Yeah, so Fannin Jr., so he's with the national team. He's on the smaller side, but he's not necessarily small. This is a very big tight end class here down in Mobile, and a lot of them can move, and Arroyo is definitely one of them.
The guy that I thought looked the best on the wide receiver side for the national team was Tez Johnson at Oregon, which he should. He's 5'7", 156 pounds. He should look better in these situations, but there was some clean, just destroy guys, even against Azareye'h Thomas, who I believe is viewed as a late first round type corner out of Florida State. I don't know the exact but smoked him pretty good on a couple plays. And we've seen short guy, usually there's a short king that comes out of here.
Yep.
And Tank Dell was that a couple years ago.
Calvin Austin,
who doesn't have the best career going on in the NFL, but he's a starting wide receiver in the NFL. So that, and then the other slot guy who's not going to be a guy who burns you. I want to see Xavier Restrepo clean guys up in one-on-ones, and we talk about how this isn't the most realistic option for him. I thought Xavier Restrepo looked fine today, but I just was left wanting more because I thought he was going to be the guy who cleaned up in the one-on-one drills.
I want to piggyback off of that feeling, right, of didn't have a bad day but didn't wow. We mentioned edge from Marshall, Mike Green, the other day, a little while ago.
Yeah.
I was happy that he didn't just come out here and try and just run speed the entire time and just bend the edge the whole time. He did try to throw some power in there. It didn't really work, but that's what I want to see. I want to see him get coached up on how to use the 250 pounds that he has to his advantage, work speed to power maybe a little bit better, and just kind of do that. So, for a guy who had 17 and a half sacks or whatever he had at Marshall this year, you'd think that he'd be dominating down here. But there's it looked to me that he was working on things.
Go ahead.
No, it's the same talking point with Green about some of these smaller schools. It's they're coming here now to play bigger competition, physically and metaphorically. You want to see what he's got. But even back to Restrepo, kind of thinking the expectation would be he would come in here and have a Ladd McConkey type of week, Right, the slot guy. He broke records at Miami too. Having Cam Ward throwing him the ball, good quarterback. So I think the expectation is maybe this year, Restrepo can be this year's Lad McConkey. I still think that can happen for him through the final 2 days. Did drop a ball on the side, nice little hole shot by Dylan Gabriel. But so definitely looking for him for more out of him. Is there anybody else? I would love to move to the defensive side of the ball for the national team. Is there anybody else offensively that anybody wants to touch on or bring up?
No, just let's what do you got left on the national team?
National team, Ollie Gordon, the running back out of Oklahoma State. He was a fun interview this morning. He had a nice run. Donovan Edwards, the running back out of Michigan.
He looked good.
He also had a nice run. I think he was catching some passes too. Jalen Rivers out of Miami was playing center, guard, and tackle. Much more comfortable on the interior at center and tackle, center and guard. So keep an eye out for Jalen Rivers. And that is it on the offensive side for me.
Let's go to the national team and the group,
defense.
The group that we're looking to talk about, and that's the front four there. And I think there's two guys I want to focus on in this one, and that's Deion Walker out of Kentucky and then Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee. Two very different players. Deion Walker being 6'7", 340 pounds, very athletic. And then Omar Norman Lott, 6'1", 295, obviously very athletic, plays with a lot of strength. I think it was the tale of 2 days. Now, Deion Walker, and I want to have like a real deal conversation about him, Grump, because he's probably the player we talked about the most in the stands today about.
This is the American team, by the way.
Yes, the American side, the SEC side, basically. He has highlights that are going to be shared around social media, including one where he knocks over an old man who's holding a bag, a coach, not just a random old guy. There's a snap where we were actually saying in the up in the stands, we were saying like he doesn't use the power the way he needs to, and then on that play, he takes the center, he drives his ass back on that play.
Right.
You see what he is capable of. You see he'll run into a pass rush move with his hands. Like, that's really nice. I want to see so much more and more consistency out of him because he should be dominant, and especially against some of the guys that are playing. Like, they finish the day with these compete period where you get one-on-ones from every position group. He's going up against Jacksonville State center Clay Webb, and he loses.
Yeah.
When this is like everyone's looking at you, what are you going to do? He tries to work some type of finesse pass rush move. You're 6'7", 340. Drive his ass back. Take advantage of that. Drive his ass back, and if you see he's holding up against that strength, that's when you use your hand moves. There's way too often where he stands up straight off the snap and throws a hand move, right? Throws a hand move without that forward lean. When they were running half-line run drills, right, which, again, are made for the defensive lineman, the working combos, just way too often the double teams controlled him where they were able to turn him the way they want. Deion Walker can be amazing. He can be a stud. He can be an all-pro level player. You see the flashes. He needs to play with more fire in his ass to play stronger on a consistent base. Like, I don't know what the deal is with coaching or whatever, but if one of these coaches, again, like, you are 6'7", 340. You are athletic. You are strong as shit. Power. Start every single thing you do firing off the ball low with power. And I just see way too much inconsistency for a guy that I think who I think is good, but should be way better than what he is.
Yeah, and I unfortunately think that consistency issue is something that goes through his film as well. I've only watched one game, so I don't want to make that declarative.
We even
statement
talked
yet.
about him in the way and went on some of our summer draft stuff last year, and it was very similar.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope that like a whole year, that kind of thing would be cleaned up, but it is something that's of concern, and like I get it, right? Like 6'7", 340, 350, whatever he is. You look at him, and it's like the first thing anyone says. We're sitting by people in the stands. They're like, "That's a very large human being." Like, yeah, he's huge among huge people, but if you wanted to see consistency and that size being put to use, you only have to go 1 inch shorter to look at Florida defensive lineman Cameron Jackson at 6'6", 350. You're getting pretty much the same package, but this is a guy who knows how to use his hands, knows how to use that power and that strength to his advantage.
Grump, he kicked ass.
Yeah.
He kicked ass.
He was a monster today.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
The other guy who I thought had the best day from the D-line, Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee. He was the winner of the day for me in a group that we came down here to see. We talked about him a little bit on our Talking Giants preview. He was a rotational player at Tennessee. He had the 7th most snaps on that front four, yet he was their 2nd most productive pass rush. He brought it. He lived in the backfield in 11-on-11. A little bit of good job timing up the snap, but we talked about it too. Guys make plays timing up the snap. And one-on-ones, you think, oh, he's He's 6'1", 295. He's winning with some all finesse, right? There's some of that. No, he's using his leverage. He has a natural leverage to him. He fires off the ball. He gets in guys' chests, and he drives their ass back. Like, he plays the way fucking Deion Walker should. Obviously, he's not. Deion Walker's not going to have the natural leverage that he has. Didn't play as a full-timer in college, so it's like, what was going on there at Tennessee? Why did they not play him a little more? We weren't focusing on him a ton in the run game, and Tennessee took him out a lot in the run game, right? And that's probably the reason why. But I thought he had a lot of juice as a pass rusher and was kind of like my under-the-radar guy coming in here, and I thought I think his name was learned by more people today than anybody else.
And I hope that we get to see more of him this week. We did see him walk into the tunnel a little bit early.
Yeah, hopefully
not super early.
Week's not done.
But, he was really impressive. Was somebody that was not at all on my radar. I did no pre-work on him, and I come away, I want to watch a whole bunch of Tennessee film now.
What do you guys think of Shamar Stewart, who may be like one of the highest-rated guys down here?
Grump.
I didn't think that a lot of the expected guys looked very good.
I thought we had the exact Shamar Stewart experience that you see on film, where you see the strength, you see pop, you don't see finish, and you see way too many times where you're like, you should have won that matchup.
I'll tell you, here's what's frustrating about Shamar Stewart.
Yeah.
Save that thought. It's hey, it's the end of practice, like we talked about. And the end of practice this is an opportunity for maybe like a viral moment, right? Like, if you want to go viral here at the Senior Bowl and you want to get fans talking about you, do it at the end of practice when it's these 1v1 sessions. We're going to manufacture this shit, right? That's what the coaches do. So Shamar Stewart goes out there. And what's the height and weight on this guy? He's huge.
He's 6'5", 281 pounds.
And it's like, this is one of the strongest human beings, you'll see. Like, this guy is the embodiment of strength of what you want out of an edge rusher. This isn't an interior guy. This is an edge rusher, right? What is his go-to pass rush move when the entire Senior Bowl world is watching him during these 1v1s?
An inside spin.
He tries to spin, man, and it's like, come on. Like,
you are strong.
Yeah. Use it.
Use that power. If he's taking on that strength, use your hands, get him off of you. Just kind of what you saw. Now there's some great plays out there that Shamar Stewart made.
Yeah.
But there's also, Georgia Tech tight end Jackson Hawes, who's a very good blocker, stonewalling him on a play action pass play. So you just be dominant, right? Like that was my call for Shamar Stewart. Not for me to come away as impressed as you as a player overall. Be dominant as someone who I think is going to be probably one of the most polarizing players in the draft. I think there's going to be people who have him as a top 10 to 15, and I think there's going to be people who say he might be in the top 50, right? And that's because of the other players in the class as well.
Piggybacking off of what Justin was saying about the best versus best at the end, and not to belabor the point, but Deion Walker went up there, was called, and went, I believe, against Alabama A&M tackle Carson Vincent.
Yeah.
And lost right then and there. And, I'm not trying to, put Carson Vincent down, but, this is something where you would expect Deion Walker to win. Where Deion Walker lost, I want to say 3 to 4 times was against someone who I think is going to be a fan favorite by the end of this week, and that's undersized center from UNC, Willie Lampkin. At 5'10".
Yeah.
At 5'10", Stonewall Deion Walker, I counted 3 times, I believe.
Yeah.
It was on the far side of the field, so we didn't have
that happen.
The greatest vantage point on some numbers and stuff with pulled jerseys. But, yeah, just lost every single rep against a 5'10" center who's a late addition here.
Yeah. So there's other guys that maybe we could talk about, but we're about 23 minutes now. I want to kind of tease tomorrow a little bit. But, Justin, we didn't spend much time talking about cornerbacks or wide receivers in this day. Who was the wide receiver on the American team that impressed you the most?
Yeah, I mean, it's Ty Felton. And to kind of just put it simply, he got open. All of our attentions were on the O-line, D-line today, but then you would poke your head over, and it's like, look at that number 10 just running into the end zone with no quarterback trailing him, and that's Ty Felton. And that didn't really necessarily happen a ton today. It was a guy that created a lot of separation. Pre-Senior Bowl, if anybody wants to pull up his measurables at the Senior Bowl, but I have him 6'2", 186.
He's measured as 6 foot, so they
6 foot.
lined up a little
Really?
bit on his roster.
Oh wow! So,
but he's still I think he's a solid player in the NFL, right? I came in with some film on him. I'm confident he's going to be a solid wide receiver in the NFL, and I thought he looked like it today.
Out of all Senior Bowl wide receivers, led college in catches at 96 with almost a 70% catch rate, over 1,000 yards, and a yards per route run at 2.32, which basically, if you're above 2.25 to me, that's pretty solid at the college level. So, and he had a 6.1 yards after the catch per reception too, with a drop rate under 10%. So, kind of crossing all those thresholds and crossing all those check marks, and he was open a ton today, and especially for the American offense, where hey, you got better quarterbacks throwing you the ball, maybe those receivers are expected to get open a little bit. Ty Felton led the pack today.
Yeah, I'm a Ty Felton fan in this draft. I don't know how much he'll rise. I think he's someone I'm going to like through the whole process. He was there, and then like I said, we'll focus a little bit more on wide receivers and DBs tomorrow.
Yeah,
but I thought Trey Amos from Ole Miss did a good job. Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky.
He's probably the best guy here.
Yeah, and then even Mac McMillan, the cornerback from UCF.
On the national team, Quincy Riley did have the best play today. There was a receiver on the sideline where, he keeps it right in phase with them, has playing sticky with them in coverage, does a nice job not getting too handsy, and then once the ball's in the air and the ball's approaching, that's when he gets his head around. He makes a play on the football as the ball's arriving. It was kind of just a teach tape, so to speak. So Quincy Riley out of Louisville with the nice play on the ball moment in 1v1s today.
I had one more from the American side that I'm excited to watch tomorrow, focus on. It was corner from Oklahoma, Billy Bowman, had a really good recovery, undercut 1v1 on an outbreaking route towards the sideline, undercut it, and came up with a pick, I believe. It was right along the line, so I'm not sure if he got both feet in, but great recovery. It was an exciting play. I'm excited to focus in on them tomorrow.
Absolutely.
All right, anything else?
We're good.
We're good, okay, because I feel like there's players, there's things we gotta talk about.
We got 2 more days. Tease the people.
Can we do rapid fire? Grump, do you have any other players that you want to mention?
Defensive lineman from Virginia Tech, Aeneas Peebles, at only 6 foot, 289 pounds, had some really good bursts inside. I'm excited to watch him.
11 on 11, he had a nice run stop today. Jamari Caldwell from Oregon, I think he has to be. Maybe Cam Jackson gives him a run for his money from Florida, but at least on the national side, Caldwell from Oregon, interior defensive lineman, weighed in at 342 pounds, looks like the biggest guy here, but he plays fast. He plays strong. He's physical. He's going to be fun to watch all week. This is dangerous at the end of the show to want to pronounce this.
UCLA has a lot of tough pronunciations here every year.
Olubafemi Oladejo from UCLA, the edge rusher. He played with a lot of energy today. Excited to watch him. And I think that's it. And Walter Nolan's somebody to keep an eye on as the days go on too. I don't think he falls in that category of like we talked about the guy from Kentucky, Deion Walker, where it's like, you're really ranked high and you're supposed to dominate. You got to kick ass. Walter Nolan was kind of like on that border. He had some good plays, but definitely a guy with where you're ranked and how dominant your tape is. Go out there and dominate even more.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's what I got. Wanted to do rapid fire. All right, I'm going to wrap us up. That is our Day 1 Senior Bowl coverage. It is our recap. We will see you Day 2. And for your Dan Patrick people, we're on YouTube. We're on our own podcast feed as well. Football Today, JM Football on YouTube. We're going to be here Day 2, Day 3. Thank you to Corona for sending us here. We will see you tomorrow. Peace. Thanks for watching.